In this model, the people enter the scenario, let's say, from different positions. They are distributed along all the potential space of the business activity. And in this way, they follow a different path. Each entity has its own path. An alternative model would be that one to have the ball on a line that came in following the same path, and then enter the, let's say, the causality of the world. So to have a distribution that will be more equal for all the potential clients.
Trains.
It's okay.
But one other, these are hamster tubes.
Yeah.
That didn't work. It was fun, but it didn't work. It was too unidirectional.
But in the slipper model, if we have just one ball after the other following from the top,
Yes.
then you have one. You have a model like that?
No, but this is precisely what I'm working on. So if I can show you a little graph from the paper I almost finished last night. Let's see. There we go. To do something. So this is the one couple of years old. These two are from last month, from March. These were built by professionals. So this was student work, these were by professionals. They've seen this video. So they all look sort of the same. They've got two places to go, and they've got barriers, and all the balls run like in curl. When I look at the video where people are discussing this, it took only 30 minutes. So with the students, we didn't know what we were doing. That took 2 weeks. Now we can do it in 30 minutes. We provide the material and the table. It takes a while before people start using the balls. They prefer to discuss, talk in the abstract. Then I can see myself coming around and say, shouldn't you try out things? Then they try with one ball. And that's not so exciting, because following one ball, it doesn't say so much. It's only if you put all these balls on, and suddenly you get a lot of surprises and a lot of sort of back talk from the thing. But other than that, this is a media producer that has the idea that we want to bring out a site for football fans of the local football club, and so they want to offer in-depth interviews, daily videos from the training, a football archive that they call Nostalgia. But then unfortunately there are quotes that get stolen from their newspaper to other competitors, which sort of direct people away. And then they realize, oops, we need a huge X factor to make people pay for this. So in the discussion they realize quite a bit. This is an amusement park. Short waiting, so here they change a bit. This is customers with the usual purchase, and this is customers who buy more. Short waiting lines, maybe that will help people buy more, maybe not, because if people wait a lot, they may spend more time in the kiosk. Mobile size, whatever. One of the things that the company wanted to work with, that was a wristband for kids, so that the parents don't have to pay every time they run to entertainment something, but you can sort of pay once and for all, and then they just go off on themselves. This started a big discussion because there were some in the team who actually had year pass for that amusement park, so they were super users in a sense. And if you come into an amusement park just once as a tourist, you spend a lot of money and you go. If you come there regularly, you keep your budget low, right? You can't spend the same amount every time. So the discussion was, first was, are the balls, are they money? Is it money or is it people? Is it money running this way or that way, or is it people? And if it's people, is it how much people pay, or is it how satisfied they are? So the users in the team, they would have preferred very happy clients and not so happy clients. And you can, as a regular, you can be very happy without spending too much money. But it means that you come back.
Yes.
So there was a big discussion between the company people and the users. So even if we say the balls are people, there's still things to discuss. Right. So back to these business models. The first project we did was very much in line with my previous work. So it was industrial plants, and it was actually ventilation systems. It's mechanical ventilation systems. A company that does big units like this for ships and industry. They wanted to move into institutions and kindergartens and whatnot. In business, you talk about the value chain. There was a Porter concept that rather than think about different departments as sort of producing things, if you could think about that they produce value. So you've got logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing, service. You've got sort of a stream of value-producing entities. And that was a sort of a big revelation for industry. So if you say value chain, then everybody in industry, they know what it is and they can make this diagram. So, have you heard about value chains? Okay, now you have. That's fine. I didn't until a couple of years ago. But in industry, it's sort of it's a thing they know. There also has been critique of this because in a sense it assumes that the company is isolated, that it does things all by itself. So newer literature talks about a value network, that companies work together with other companies or other actors. So in this project, it was a rather complicated network. So this is a company we're talking about. They have sub-suppliers that do automatics, motors, filters, whatever you need to produce a ventilation system. And then they sell to the ship, the marine area, or they sell to sort of the on-land building with entrepreneurs and whatnot. So it was actually a very complicated network. And if you are someone like Novenco, you're down here in a chain and you can't talk directly to the users. You get all your information sort of filtered through the others and only what they think that you should know about people out there. So in this project, it was actually a collaboration between Novenco and 2 sub-suppliers and 2 customers. So they were experimenting with, can we flip the chain so that people can see some of the other companies, or can we even think about it as a network where customers can relate to other companies too. And for us, of course, it was a question of who are all these people that we need to go out and study and whatnot. You can already hear this sounds terribly complex and abstract. So we started experimenting with, can't we build representations of who are we collaborating with. Like here, lots of stuff going on inside the company. This is a wall, so people out here have no idea what happens inside. But sometimes there are little pins that stick out like a new product. And then there are the salespeople who are these sort of Sputniks, which have one leg inside and a couple of legs outside. And we tried it again with different materials and realized quickly that the difference is if you say value chain to a business person, he jumps to the whiteboard and does something like this, boxes and arrows. And it looks logical and you all nod and say, looks good. But there's no richness, there are no stories. If we instead ask them to pick material and explain it in this way, they pick material depending on their experiences. So this is a company, Novenco, this is a sub-supplier, and they choose a heavy metal bolt to show that these are really related. Whereas here there's another actor out there who's a sponge, and there's a straw, so you can imagine there's a completely different story there about how they relate to each other. Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think a tangible representation works better than a more traditional one?
It's because we get challenged on the experiences in this case. I mean, we pick material which has qualities.
So it's related to manipulation, or?
But also the metaphors built into the things.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned that we have to be very careful with, it's good to have lots of metaphors, but they shouldn't be too people-oriented. So like Lego figures with a chieftain and a football player and whatnot, that doesn't quite work because people get to talk about other people in a very stereotypical way. But here they can relate metaphorically to the things. It even worked in Africa. It worked with small things, big things, fluffy stuff. And we actually got to realize that this is not just about the material, but it's also how we perceive a network. They may not be extremely clear, but this is the way we started out, in a sense very engineering-like, that a network are entities and relations. It's a systems view. There are agents and relations between them. But if you think about it, when you invite a new partner into it, they come with the relations. It's not that you first take the agent and then you build the relations. So we also toyed with this stuff to say maybe agents should be represented by starfish who already have arms. And if we could find the material, we would work more with this. This got very sort of fluffy, but there's still something to do. Here's another thing we tried. So relations isn't just about, in a sense with a map you have a God's eye view, you see it from far above and there are these people who have these relations. But it's also what you do personally, how you personally relate. So one of our designers, he made little cards and asked, here's a marketing manager from the company and the sub-supplier and the customer, and he asked them to pick 3 symbols for how they handle the other person, how they, in a sense, monitor their relationship and what influence they have. So, for instance, the company would say, for the sub-supplier, I use a rocket because I need to fire up so that they produce more. Whereas the sub-supplier would say, well, I've got a feather because all I can do with this customer is sort of tickle him and ask him if he wants to buy a bit more. All right, we're getting closer to business models now. Osterwalder, anyone heard of Osterwalder? He's a big guru in the business world. He has, in his PhD, he did that's what all PhD students dream about. He did this concept and now he's rich. So he did a drawing of what a business model, how you describe a business model. And now I tried to get him to come and give a talk in our place, and he asked for 15,000 euro. Get it? Yes.
Please, in business models, have you considered external phenomena?
Like?
Is financial, it is today interesting problem.
Yes.
This side it is, I think, very important.
Yes, I think so too.
But the model it is inside the company.
Yes.
But not have external phenomena.
That's right. It's often not talked about outside the company. You can see that they make money in a different way. So
the organization, internal organization, but
yes.
not external with to get the money from bank or
Yes.
other problem.
I mean, the thing with business models for the rest of us who don't understand business is that terms are very worrying, very scary. So it says offer, or often they use the term value proposition. It basically just means product or service or something you sell, but value proposition is when they talk about revenue streams, which is basically just how the money comes into the company, right? Cost structure, which means what thing costs and how wherever the costs are. Customer segments, like who or whatever. But basically they say every company has a business model, but they may not be very clear about it. It's only if they get challenged, like by internet business, that you suddenly have to think hard about the way we've earned money so far. Is that really, will that carry on in the future? So for instance, EasyJet or some of these low-cost air carriers, do you know how they make money? I mean, how can they sell air tickets so cheap, do you know? Like €1 to get to London?
This is similar marketing study.
It starts. I don't really know.
Well, the trick is they fly from these obscure little airports, right? They don't fly from the very big ones because the big ones are expensive. They fly from the small one. So they go in and make them an offer and say, we'll ensure that you get a couple of million customers through this airport a year, but you have to pay us to fly.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you get all the business from the shops and kiosks and tax and whatnot in your little airport. We just guarantee that you get so and so many customers. So by the end of the month, if they haven't filled their quota, that's when they put the prices very, very low to get some more people through.
You are right about what are you saying, but also these companies, they are very restricted with the language. You have
Yes.
to read all the instructions about the language first of going.
Yeah, they charge for everything, right?
Yes,
it's not just
yes.
the ticket. Yeah.
Because of that, that companies earn a lot of money also.
Oh yeah, and they shut down the toilets so that people can't go on the toilet because then they can push more people into it. Yes, there are lots of tricks. Of course, you know, Apple App Store, that's a very different business model from what it used to be. And you know, we had the vice president of customer relations of Yahoo coming in to talk to the students. Because do you know how you actually make money on the internet? Yes, commercials, but how do they do that? They have like an auction sale, so people, they can bid on this type of space for commercials. How much would I pay to get that? So different companies, they compete to get, and it's all automatized. So there's not like in the old days where the newspaper agent would call you and say, well, so and so many millimeters by this costs so and so much. But it's, well, anyway. So business models is a very hot topic. And as designers, we can actually go in there and do something. Here's one little primitive thing. Rather than talk about these different objects, these different terms, revenue stream, value proposition, whatnot, we simply put designerly stuff on it and said, okay, we think this is your business model. Find out what it means. And of course they thought that we had been trying very hard to pick stuff. We basically just put stuff on it. But in this discussion, you have to both think about what is the relationship between this business term and that thing and your business. So is a revenue stream, is it a pulley that you just pull and then the money comes in, or what is it actually? So it's a way of making an abstract discussion very tangible and lively. And it gets even more fun if you've got the company and its customers and its supplier in the same room, because they've got to link their business model. I can't just say I sell to these customers. If the customers are right there, I have to figure out what they want too, right? Good. Let me see how to do this. Just a moment. Good. I was fascinated to hear that you're working with light too. So here's another project. It's for a small company, very local where we live, who produce LED lights where you can control the light color, the light temperature. And it's actually a company that does automation of light. So it's new for them to do the actual light fixtures. They do things like light and movement sensors. And around this offer, they developed quite a system of, I think I talked about these remote buttons, which are, you just stick them on the wall. They don't need electricity because by the push they generate enough to send a pulse digitally to the system. Anyway, so their dream is to build these artificial windows and skylights where they can change the temperature. And this is an engineering company, right? So they found out, oh yes, if we paint skies on them, people really like them. There was an architect at that meeting. He did artificial stuff for architects. That's how it was. But anyway, skylights, windows with the. Let's see if I have that. No, I don't have them here, but somewhere they had some examples of in an elevator which is completely dark, or in a hospital where there are no windows. When they put these windows in the skies, it gives a very different feeling to it. So we started our collaboration, same type of exercise. Now we call it the silver set, to map out the relations. Silver because it's got to work in a place where people wear ties and jacket. So silver on black has sort of a style to it. Doesn't matter, it could have been anything, but this looks stylish, so even managers are okay with fiddling with it. the way we do research is that we then afterwards go in and analyze. We videotape and transcribe precisely what they say and then figure out what it actually means. In this case, can I give you the story? This is the CEO of the company. This is my colleague. This is an organizer of this meeting, and there's also the white guy. He's a R&D manager from another company in Denmark. So they've got this experience exchange meetings, and we were asked in to do something funny, in a sense, on business. So this is about, can we sell this lighting stuff to hotels? If we do that, who are the partners that we need? So they start building with the stuff. At some point, for the CEO, that's C. It gets too much for him. He's an engineer like me, so he runs over to his desk. It's in his office, and say, I need post-its to write down what these things mean. While he's away, my colleague, who's B, I think A, whatever, he suggests cleaners. Cleaners in a hotel must be part of the network. And everybody agree, except the CEO who's gone. When he comes back, he starts writing all the objects, what they mean. Here's the hotel owner and the building, whatever. When he gets to the brush, he says, this cleaning there, I have difficulties relating to that. So he doesn't like the idea of collaborating with cleaners, because why should you? B tries. With this light you have, for instance, if you were painting, you can't paint at night because the light is wrong. Okay, so there's an idea there. He picks that up. C says, 7N needs to provide cleaning light when you push a button. That's a requirement. So we don't need to talk to cleaners. We just make a great idea, cleaning button, light goes on, and you can clean. B tries again, but there might be environmental health regulations. D tries. There would be something about cleaning the lamp itself. If a fly finds its way under the white screen and gets into the light, you can just imagine the fly as a shadow of a fly. C says that it's a product property, what the company delivers. It's a specification. You don't need to actually talk to cleaners. Then D, they actually know each other pretty well. It says, you don't like this cleaning very much, do you? Well, it's just that in my view, it's difficult to see which influence cleaning would have as an institution between people because other people decided it. D says, is it always the hotel itself that does the cleaning? Couldn't it be outsourced? Of course it could, but it's still them that need to pay for the service. But the price of cleaning will depend on many things, also on whether your services are easy to clean. Okay, it would be the employees more generally. So finally he accepts, if we can call it something else, and cleaners, that this thingy can stay on the table. Well, now, the reason it's interesting is, all the black ones, what this thing means changes. So the thing is there, it just doesn't have a name yet. But you can't, since it's a thing, it doesn't disappear. It's only if you take it off that it can disappear. Right? So in a sense, they play with words to try to figure out, is there something there or isn't there? So what I say is, innovation is about the words. It's all the way down to the words we use. We can't just assume that everybody understands the words, so we don't have to discuss them in a sense. Sorry, I get wound up here. Computers now reserve power. That means they've got to hurry up a bit. We asked students, again, to design business models, and here are some of them. Let me show you this.
This is actually you. This is if you have the power source, you can adjust the power. Whether wellness is interested in comfort and well-being, and then the strings from wellness should be connected there. And maybe wellness is also customization, and then you should connect online. The person you have to think about how to connect those two things.
Yeah, it's like those architects. There's a guys explain if you call those combinations and everything.
Okay.
bit complicated, lots of wires. There were electronic engineers who designed this. But the idea they had was, this company is interested in selling the light to different market segments. So we talked about hotels before. They're also thinking about hospitals, schools, offices. But each vertical, as we say in this business language, each segment has different requirements. And you need to gear your company so that you can actually produce these things that fit. So over here, that's a company. You've got internal resources in the different departments, application, engineering, manufacturing, and you can put more or less effort into function design, systems integration, customization. So these little things that tell about how much energy you put into a particular product property. Let me show you an easier one. This is they talked about it as a sales effort balance because this new technology made the salespeople nervous. It's a small company, 50 people, they've got 3 sales guys and a manager. When they're going to sell a new technology, does that mean that they have to cut down on the usual sales activity they do? And how do they find enough time to actually learn how to sell this new technology? In color of light, you need a good story to sell that. So the balance here is between all the money they spent on development, between software and hardware, for instance, and then at the other end of the pole, sales visits, sales preparation, and there were little bags with different weight that they should hang on. So it's a very physical way of talking about the balance between how much money do you put into selling a new technology. And this actually made it to the board of directors. They invited us to come and present this. And after the meeting, the sales guy called us and said, yes, he got a new sort of position in the sales department. Let me see, sales gear shift. But you can sort of see using physical stuff to get people to discuss business. It works exceedingly well with business people. Of course, you have to be convincing when you say, we're going to do this. You can't ask, do you want to, because they run away screaming. But once they get involved, they find it very, very rewarding to use stuff to discuss business. Let me see if that was the end of my... may have a little one more student example, maybe. So it's a combination of this network thinking and the business model. Around the table you have different actors in a business business venue, and with this stuff they can talk about what can I offer, what do I want from him, and they can sort of try out with arrows and different pieces. So again, a very physical way of making something complex easy to discuss. So, I didn't get to talk so much about the staging, but we work with maps and sculptures and also ways of people relating with their body to each other to discuss business. Good. That was the end of my second part. Questions?
I have a question. question is, it's clear that this kind of methodologies are very inspirational and also they facilitate the communication among different stakeholders. I was wondering how difficult it is to pass from these to specification. I mean, you are an engineer, no? And engineers always complain that designers do very abstract things, and then things that are difficult to translate in, system architectures and system specifications and so on. So I was wondering if you have any methodology to structure your inspiration and this kind of focus group, if you want, into something concrete for designing a new system.
So the question is whether we have any ways of making these fluffy sessions sort of concrete. I think I've learned from the theatre company that even as an engineer, everything doesn't necessarily need to be specified in that sense. This company, they do industry engagement. So they go out and study what are the dilemmas in this company. Then they produce a little play like forum theatre to play out a difficult situation for the employees, and employees discuss, and sometimes they change the play and say, oh, well, this manager should do something else, and then they play it again and whatnot. So at some point I asked, when you've done a consultancy like that, do you hand over a report afterwards? And they laughed and said, no, our job is only done. I think it's the same thing here. We only do our jobs right if we change the way people think and talk about their business. And if that stays with them, then it's fine. We have worked with sort of variants of specification also, but yes, that's another talk.
How many?
No, I don't know.
Infinity.
Probably, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think the main thing with business is they don't think business models as design. They think about it as a logic sort of progression, a logic deduction.
Yes.
And what we as designers can bring in is this notion that business can be designed too. There's a creative element to, this idea of asking small airports to pay you to fly, it's actually pretty creative. So there are creative moves there. It's just business people tend not to talk about it in that way. So I think there's a big chance for designers to go in and do something on the business side.
Other questions? No?
Now the camera's on you, so you're supposed to. Can I say, I've actually got a big camera like that, and when we started working with interaction analysis people, I pulled out the first instance of a company rejecting the ideas we came with from a user side. So we had this idea about use, da-di-da-di-da, and the people, they were so strong on this can't be true, and it's not necessary, and we don't want it. And luckily I had it on video, and it had been nagging me for 10 years. So we pulled it out and asked these interaction analysts to look at it. And when I use A, B, C, and D, that's what they do, right? They take a photo first of who are the people in there, and they had A, B, C, D, whatever, and the camera was the X. I said, come on, the camera is just a thing. No, because I was holding the camera, so it had quite an authority. If I pointed it to someone, then they had to say something, right? So sometimes when I look back, I can see when there was a harsh comment from the company, I would sort of swing it to find, can anybody from my team answer this? So yes, video is a great thing. If any of you are interested in video, I brought maybe not quite enough, but there's a little booklet on how I work with video, and one of them is actually video specs, video requirements. About using video as a way of making requirements for students.
Okay, so thank you very much. And Jakob is here for a few days more, so just in case you want to talk with him, he's in room 305. And so, thank you again.
Thank you.